With the 2022-2023 NBA season slowly approaching, I thought it made sense to make a video discussing 5 potential players that need to have a breakout season this year, in order to get their careers going out straight and to shut up some of their critics. And before I start, I'd like to let you guys know that I'm not including players like Russell Westbrook, James Harden, or any other players that we all know that are way beyond their prime years. Cause honestly guys, these guys have already proved themselves as players, and Father Time for the most part is no joke when players start to reach their final years in the league. So yeah, I'm not gonna really be bringing those guys up. So now that we have that settled, let's get on with the video. First player on my list, we're gonna be looking at the 3-point specialist himself, Ben Simmons. A guy that hasn't played since Philly's Game 7 blunder in the 2021 playoffs against the Hawks, where Simmons absolutely blew it when it came to making free throws and scoring a crucial wide open layup that could have easily tied the game. And if that wasn't bad enough, Ben was even shunned by his coach Doc Rivers in the post-game interview, where Doc Rivers said he doesn't know if Ben Simmons can be a point guard for a championship team.
Hey, Doc, do you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to become?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now. So I don't know the answer to that.
Ben Simmons quickly became the NBA's laughingstock overnight, which resulted with Simmons demanding a trade out of Philly, which at the time came as a huge shock to everyone considering that Simmons a year prior signed a 5-year extension to stay with Philly, so to see him wanting out was just shocking. At the start of his trade demand, the Sixers were hesitant and denied his request, but that only led to more drama with Ben. This led to him refusing to attend training camp, practices, and play in postseason games. But the Sixers still kept hope, believing that once the season started, Simmons would come to his senses and rejoin the team. Well, that didn't happen. Simmons continued his antics and the Sixers were left with no choice but to give in to his trade demands. Simmons was traded in a package deal for James Harden. In Brooklyn, Simmons would team up with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Everything seemed to be going right for Simmons. He was finally out of Philadelphia and he also had the luck to be traded to a team that was considered to be a title contender. But unfortunately for the Nets, Simmons still refused to play, claiming he had back spasms, which was kinda weird considering that this man never showed up to practices or did any type of contact basketball for him to even obtain such injury. NBA fans were livid, calling Simmons soft and lazy and overusing his power as an NBA superstar. Simmons did have a chance to redeem himself in the playoffs though, where it was announced that he would return for Game 4 in the Nets and Celtics series, but again that did not happen. Simmons once again found a way to avoid playing, which created a lot of buzz from analysts and former players. The Nets were eventually swept 4-0 by the Boston Celtics, with Simmons receiving a lot of blame even though he didn't play. In just 1 year, Simmons went from being a franchise player to the most hated player in the league. And with the 22-23 season approaching, Ben Simmons needs to have a bounce back year if he ever wants to be considered that all-star player once again. Next up, we have the beast himself, Zion Williamson. Although already receiving the max with the Pelicans this summer, Zion still has a lot to prove. With all the hype he received coming out of high school and college, you would think this guy would have already left a mark in the league, like guys like Luka Doncic, Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, and his fellow draft member, Ja Morant. But unfortunately for Zion, he has been haunted by injuries, causing him to miss more than 100 plus games in 3 seasons. And yes, injuries are common and are a valid excuse for athletes, but if you're getting injured on a frequent basis like Zion, then it only makes sense for people to begin to wonder why that is. With some now even questioning Zion's commitment to playing basketball for the Pelicans, saying that all the injuries he has received are his own fault due to him not keeping his body in proper check and for him also wanting out of New Orleans, which valid does make kind of sense, but I really don't think that's the case. Zion doesn't look like a player that will begin to demand idiotic things to get his way. I honestly think it's bad luck, but at the same time I won't neglect that Zion's injuries may have to do because of his weight, because let's face it, dude has been looking kind of big this past season. So it's kind of hard to say that his weight isn't the issue on why he's missed countless games in the NBA. But as of now, things look to be getting better for the former #1 pick, based on some pics being posted on social media where Zion now looks 100% healthy and ready to go, which makes him a must-watch player for next season. Not to mention, this summer Zion signed a max contract with the Pelicans where he agreed to stay at a certain weight throughout the season, which comes to show that Zion is 100% committed to playing basketball in New Orleans. So this year, I expect some great things from Zion. Coming in number 3, we have Uncle Drew himself, Kyrie Irving, the man with possibly the greatest handles and layup package in the NBA today. But although being one of the greatest players in today's modern era, Kyrie has had to endure much backlash from the media and former players for him not wanting to play due to his beliefs in vaccinations and protesting movements, which to me sounds kind of petty considering that most working men today don't have that luxury to skip out on work due to their beliefs. For the past few seasons, Kyrie has been involved in a lot of controversial areas, from the Black Lives Matter movement to vaccination beliefs and even flat earth theories. Kyrie has been in the spotlight not only for his game, but for also being an outspoken figure, which for the most part isn't a bad thing. We see a lot of players in the NBA speak out and discuss social events happening around the world. It only becomes an issue when you take it a little bit too far like Kyrie and refuse to play. And I kinda get what Kyrie's trying to do, but at the same time he needs to understand that this is his job and he's getting paid a lot of money to win games. So when players and fans see you not want to participate in games, they honestly just feel cheated and lied to. In this last season alone, Kyrie only played a total of 29 games where the Nets barely made the play-in game where they matched up with the Cavs. Luckily for Brooklyn, the Cavs were haunted by injuries and they were able to beat them with ease. They would eventually meet up with the Boston Celtics in the first round of the playoffs, where they would get swept by a young Boston Celtics team led by Jason Tatum. A bittersweet moment for the Nets considering that their nightmare season was finally over. Now with the final year of his contract running down, many have begun to wonder if Kyrie is really 100% committed to playing basketball. And there has been some rumors from the Nets office that they're looking to trade Kyrie, but unfortunately for the Nets, not many teams are all that interested in his services, considering that every team Kyrie Irving has been on, there has always been some type of turmoil. So Kyrie may not be the best player to bring into anybody's locker room. But luckily for Kyrie, there are still some teams who are interested in his services, some more desperate than others, but hey, the interest is still there. Kyrie really needs to have a good season this year, otherwise he'll probably never see another max contract in his career again. Next up, we have Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. With the addition of Rudy Gobert to their roster this season, the Minnesota Timberwolves have readied themselves to be a top dog in the West this year. With guys like Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns on the team, I expect this team to do some big things this season. But again, a guy like Rudy Gobert can only do too much. We saw it last year in the playoffs where the Mavericks absolutely exposed him in the offensive end, making him look like a complete scrub instead of the all-star player we've seen. But luckily this year, Gobert has guys like Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards to make his life easier. With both guys coming off great regular seasons where both were able to average 20 plus points a game last year, I expect both players to make a giant leap considering that now the defensive end for the most part will be taking care of Gobert. With Gobert's arrival to Minnesota, Cat no longer has to play the 5 spot. He can now move to the 4 spot and be an offensive nightmare to every team in the league. I expect Towns to be in the race for MVP this season, and I also expect Anthony Edwards to elevate his game to new heights and be a first-time All-Star this season. But again, this is all speculation. Things could go wrong whether that's through injury or just chemistry. After all, this is the Timberwolves we're talking about, a team that many may say is cursed due to their many years of failure. And finally, the number one player that needs to have a breakout season this year has to be the Brow himself, Anthony Davis. With everything the Lakers have endured this past season, it's only right to mention a guy like Anthony Davis. I mean, how could you not, since from his arrival to the NBA, many have dubbed AD as the next face in the NBA, and with already 10 seasons under his belt, that still isn't the case. Yeah, he's part of the NBA's top 75 greatest players to ever play the game, but AD has yet to prove he can be the main guy in a championship team. And with the Lakers in shambles this coming season, what better way for AD to prove his critics wrong by dominating this season and taking the Lakers to a deep playoff run? AD needs to dominate this year, otherwise I don't see how the Lakers will rebuild if LeBron decides to leave after this year. This year, I expect AD to come back 100% healthy and show the world that the Brow means business, showing not only himself but the Laker franchise that they can still find a way to rebuild around AD, if LeBron decides to leave after this season. But again, it's all on AD and him staying 100% healthy, because we all know that AD has the size and the skills to be one of the greatest in the league. Well guys, that's my list. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys feel I missed someone, please feel free to share it in the comment section down below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.